What's up, everyone, and welcome into the latest episode where it is my honor and privilege to introduce a special guest joining this episode, and that is Army kicker Dawson Jones. Dawson, thank you so much for joining. I know you have your final exam tomorrow. Good luck with that. By the time this gets released, you'll be done for the school year. I'm sure you're really excited to get to summer.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's nice to close up this semester and this school year and get ready for summer and a big season ahead. So,
Yeah, absolutely. You're headed into your junior year. You're halfway done at West Point. Does it feel like you're halfway done, or has it been kind of a long last couple of years? Because the one thing I have heard from other people that have joined from Service Academy are like the days and weeks are long, but the years fly by.
yeah, 100%. Each day feels insanely long,
Yeah.
and they kind of just add up. But looking back on it, it feels like I was just a freshman kind of starting not too long ago. So it's a little crazy to think that 2 years has gone by and we only have two more left. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's talk about obviously your freshman year, but prior to that point, you end up deciding to obviously commit to Army. Talk a little bit about that decision. Did you know very much about Army at the time? Did you ever consider a service academy, or was it more of like once the opportunity came about and you kind of learned a little bit more of kind of the opportunities, the things that come with it, it kind of really intrigued you to obviously end up committing and playing at Army?
Yeah, so I've known about service academies. A lot of my family is served in the military, and so
Okay.
I'm used to that background. My parents didn't, but a lot of my other family has, and so that was always in the back of my mind. I didn't really start communicating with Army until junior year for the most part.
Okay.
I was, talking to a bunch of different schools for a while, and something that really stuck with me and helped my decision was my kicking coach used to always tell me, he's like, football's going to end one day.
Yeah.
And so you got to prepare for that and prepare for what's next in your journey in life. And so service has always been something I want to do and
Okay.
something that I strive for. And so, Army reached out and I was able to start that communication. And when I got the opportunity, I knew like I get to go play big time football. I get to
Yeah.
go serve and do what I want after football. And so it just kind of was the best of both worlds for me.
I was just going to say, it kind of seems like it checks all the boxes, and obviously getting to play in front of incredible fans, very passionate fans, and then obviously also getting to play in the Army Navy game as well. In my opinion, probably the greatest college football game there is. I don't think there's any other that top end. We'll obviously talk a little bit about that, but I know one thing, especially in the day and age of college athletics that we're in, there's not a ton of like development that is talked about. And the one thing about going to Army is obviously you might have to wait a little bit before you get an opportunity to. And I know your freshman year, you kind of went through that development a little bit, had to wait going into your junior year, obviously starting this past year. Talk about kind of that development you experienced your first year, not only as kind of a football player, but really having to go through what plebe year was like.
Yeah, so plebe year is definitely kind of a shock to your system.
Yeah,
You get thrown into a new environment, a new culture, a new way of life. And so it takes a while to get adjusted to the new atmosphere and everything you have to do in your daily life. And then throwing football on top of that and all the extra things you have to do to still try and make yourself successful in football, but also worrying about how you're becoming a better leader and a better cadet and, a better future officer.
yeah,
And so the biggest thing for me in my development was all my teammates, especially people like Matt Rose and Trey Granati, who were, kickers and punters, seniors when I was a freshman. Just kind of getting to learn behind people who have been successful for a while and have figured out how to do it, and kind of seeing how they made their journey to get where they are, and just picking up a lot of different of those pieces on the things I need to do in my daily life to be able to make that balance and make this transition smoother. And
yeah,
so honestly, just sitting back and trying to soak in everything you can. I think that was hard to do because you want to just hit the ground running and say, I want to play, I want to do this. When in reality, to make you more successful, you just need to take a step back and realize like there are people that have done this before and that are better than
exactly.
me. And I want to learn so I can fill those shoes, when they're gone. And so it took a little bit to learn that, but I feel like I was pretty successful in being able to just learn from those guys and help me develop on and off the field and in the Army as well. So
Yeah, and how long did it kind of take you to like settle in per se, kind of like learn what not only life was like obviously at the academy, but learn from the kickers and punters and kind of just like the different type of like routines you guys went through, the different type of practices, or were practices really not that much different compared to what you had in high school?
Yeah, they're definitely different than it was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say for me to feel fully comfortable, it was probably October when I played my first snap.
Okay.
And I would say just the anticipation of knowing it's going to be different when you actually play
Yeah.
versus even when you're just practicing at the collegiate level, right? That kind of hangs over your head. Even, when you start feeling comfortable in practice, there's another step you have to take, and you don't know how you're necessarily going to respond, when your number's called in that situation. And so I'd say I was getting comfortable. I mean, pretty much after fall camp ended,
Okay.
just because, we all lived together for those 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and 3 weeks of just from sun up to sundown, getting to learn and spend time with the guys and just getting comfortable. I feel like I simulated into that pretty fast. But I always knew that there was a bigger step, and so that was kind of hanging over my head until we kind of got past that little hurdle and got to play my first snap, and then really settled down from there.
What was that experience of the first snap? Kind of describe that. It's just a completely, obviously different atmosphere. You're probably playing in front of thousands of fans, which you probably either hadn't had the opportunity to do, or maybe very little, depending on obviously your high school support, how far you got in the playoffs. Like, what was kind of that experience like the first time you stepped on the field? Did you have a little bit of butterflies, or was it more of just like, hey, I've done this before? It's just a lot more people there, and obviously bigger and faster guys than you've experienced in the past.
Um, Initially, it was a little like surreal, just like stepping on that field in front of the fans for the first time. But I had a lot of help on the sideline. I got a heads up that I was going in, and people like Trey and Matt and Owen Walter and these guys who I trusted. Getting to hear them kind of settle you down and giving their wisdom, and even our coach has been like, "Hey, you've been here before. Like you've worked this. Like it's nothing different." And so just getting to have the opportunity to like have those guys have your back and get you in the right headspace to go have your first snap really made it easy. I wasn't thinking much to be honest, and sometimes I don't really remember what kind of happened on the first one.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it was a little surreal, but just having the support and the wisdom made it a pretty easy transition onto the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also had a high school teammate that also made that transition a little bit as well. And Cole Seawright, hopefully I pronounced his last name correctly. How was it kind of having a familiar face in a very unfamiliar place at the very beginning?
Yeah, it was truly a blessing to have Cole decide to come here and play football and join this brotherhood. I've grown up with him my entire life. We live pretty much a couple streets from each other in the same neighborhood.
I love
So
that.
just yeah, having someone who I've known since I was 5 years old, just be here knowing that if I needed anything, someone who I trust more than anyone has my back, knowing that we were going to do this together and that we were stepping into an unfamiliar place, but you had your brother
Yeah.
next to you, and so that kind of made it easy. And just little things as we would fly back home together, even freshman year, we still do that now, and just having that relationship and that connection, making things feel more comfortable. You really feel like you're in a better spot when you have someone you can turn to. So.
Absolutely. I do want to put you on the hot seat real quick,
Mm.
though. Was this planned? Like, were you guys kind of going wherever you were together, or did it just end up being that you both were ending up at West Point? One committed first, and then the other one's like, yeah, I'm actually committing as well.
No, it was not planned at all. I committed junior year, second
Okay.
semester junior year. And Cole hadn't talked to them really at all much. And I knew based off the person he was and his values and what he wants in life, this would be a good opportunity. And I knew he thought so too. And just a little push like, you should check this place out.
Yeah.
And he did and absolutely loved it and made the right decision. And he's happy. And as you
Love
saw
that.
last year on the field, like having a lot of success on the field, found plenty of time early. So it wasn't planned at all. It just kind of happened. And I know we're both happy we made this decision.
Love that. So you were a little bit of a recruiter for him, like kind of pushing, like, hey, like you might want to check this place out. You might want to come here. Then obviously, both of you have had a great past year, and obviously a couple of years left to go as well. Both of you are going to hopefully have a ton of success going forward, and it's really cool that you obviously have known each other for a while. But obviously, a big part of going to Army, of playing Army football, is that brotherhood, of that connection, that chemistry, of really growing throughout really the grind, like the tough days. Like everyone's kind of gone through that. Talk a little bit about what the brotherhood means to you and just kind of going through that, and also having to remember every single person's name and I believe hometown as well.
Yeah, so my entire recruiting process, I heard brotherhood and I kept hearing that word. And you take it with a grain of salt until you're actually in it and see what it's really like. But truly, the bonds that you forge with these people and your brothers because of what we go through at this place. I mean, we're around each other all day, every day.
Yeah,
Whether it's just in the classroom, up a football, we live up here all summer together, do all our military trainings together, right? You
yeah,
go through all these hard days together, which is something that other places don't have, and that's why I
exactly.
like truly believe that this is the last brotherhood. The same guys you play with one year, they're there the next year, right? It's not people moving in and out of schools, and you really just forge those relationships going through those times and those days where you don't want to keep going, right? And
Yeah,
so it just makes it really special. And when you see that everyone else is going through what you're going through, it builds trust, it builds love, accountability, right? And so that's
exactly.
truly something we have in the brotherhood, and it's truly special. And so hometown and high school, Coach Munkin, pushes that. And so fall camp, we get quizzed on it. You should know the hometown or yeah, high school of each of your teammates and everybody on staff as well, because it's not just the players for us. Everybody, a part of the organization, is just as important, and we need every single
Exactly.
person so that we can win games on Saturdays.
Yeah, no, and it absolutely forms, obviously, the brotherhood forms trust. And one thing when it comes to obviously going to a service academy is forming future leaders, forming trust, being able to work together. How do you think West Point has helped you not only kind of translate that into who you are, who you're becoming, and the average day in the academy, but also how does that also help translate to the football field as well?
Yeah, 100%. There's a huge like translation between the two, right? We're learning and developing at a premier leader institution on how we can just grow and how we can learn to lead others. And by leading others, you first have to get led. And so that kind of builds a trust is you have to trust your leaders. And so
Yeah,
when you're a follower, right, we learn how you build trust as a leader because you get to watch how people do it and you get to learn, make your own leadership style and see how trust works both ways. And so that translates directly on the field, right?
yeah.
We all have built trust with everybody just in the army as well. And then it translates to your brothers on the football field. And so I feel like that's where our success comes from is that we're able to trust each other through no matter what because we do so much together and we learn how to trust and lead together.
Absolutely, obviously, and trust is huge, especially when it comes to special teams. As a kicker, you really truly have to trust not only your holder but your snapper as well. How important is that, especially when you really have to be on the same wavelength and everything truly happens in like milliseconds. Like if anything's off, like that operation is not going to work.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really fortunate, first off, just to have a great snapper and a great holder. So trust is just built just from their pure skill level and their ability to replicate success time after time. And the next thing is we focus on personal accountability, right?
Yeah,
We all focus on our job specifically. And when you know that you have a snapper who's focusing on how well he snaps the ball and a holder who's just constantly working himself, I trust those guys so much because they're disciplined and they're accountable to themselves. And so I
exactly.
don't have to worry about that because they take their personal accountability. And that's the same thing as they don't have to worry about what I do because they know I'm going to be accountable and I'm going to work, I'm going to be disciplined in my craft and what I do. And so it just creates a relationship where we just foster trust through each
Yeah.
other and we just focus on what we do and then the entire operation comes together.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also have a long snapper in Owen Walter that is a captain on the team next year as well, which I know is a very big honor when it comes to West Point of being a captain on the football team as well. So that has to be pretty cool that you know that the guy snapping the ball to you is one of the three captains that was voted by the team, not even the coaches.
100%. Ever since I stepped foot in the door, Owen's been a huge mentor for me and just a great friend. And so getting to vote for him and getting to see the team vote him as a captain is truly special because he truly deserves it and he embodies everything that this team and this program and honestly West Point just all our values together. He embodies them. And so also for our specialist room, getting to have somebody, because that's not very common, that's a
Yeah.
specialist, get to go represent the team in that way is cool for us and cool for our room. And yeah, I mean, he deserves it. And I'm super excited to see how he leads the team this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a specialist, like you specifically mentioned, like obviously it's not like overlooked on the football team. Like everyone kind of understands how important kickers, punters, long snappers is because it truly can make a difference. You can win and lose a game very easily by specialists, but at the same time, like people looking on, like fans, like they might not understand just how important and just how much goes into obviously being on special teams. So talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about what it's like being a kicker. Not only obviously what practice is kind of like, but really the mental toughness that you truly have to have because if you kind of have to have a little bit of a goldfish mentality. I don't want to completely shout out Ted Lasso, but that's kind of what you have to have.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like there's two sides of being a specialist. There's the technical side and the mental side.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm really fortunate on the technical side, since I think fifth grade, so going on about 10 years now.
Okay.
The best technical coach, the best kicking coach, lives pretty close to me, Dan Orner. And so I've got to just learn technique and build a foundation and build confidence in my technique. And honestly, it's a game of millimeters for a specialist, right? And so that's why
Yeah.
our technique is so important. I mean, you miss the center and it's a couple millimeters, on the wrong part of your foot, and that ball's not going to go in. And so I don't think people understand how precise and how perfect we do have to be in every single rep. And so I think our
Exactly.
technique is half the battle, right? You have
Yeah.
to be able to get yourself in those positions to where you don't be a couple millimeters off, and so that we can replicate success over and over. But at the same time, you can have perfect technique, and if you don't have the mental side and the mental strength of fortitude, like you were talking about, right, you're not going to be successful. And so I'd never really taken that to heart
Okay.
until I came here. Our special teams coach, Sean Saturnio, is very big into that. It's something he prides himself. And so we spend a lot of time learning how to respond to adversity, even just things like focus in bigger moments. We do a lot of work on that. And I think that's the biggest stride I've made is being able just to have that mentality of when I go out there, right? I take the technical aspect and I take the focus and control of my emotions that maybe I didn't have before I came here and kind of put those together because that's honestly what we have to do as a specialist so
Yeah.
that we can be perfect technically and mentally at the same time.
Yeah, and speaking of big moments, you had at least a couple last year. Recently talking about playing the Army Navy game where you had multiple 40 plus field goals, including a 45-yard field goal at half, and also tying the career along early in the third quarter with a 48-yard field goal. Talk about not only that experience playing in kind of your first Army Navy game, having really those high pressure kicks, but what kind of like mental routine, like process do you go through when you have those high pressure kicks to make sure that, hey, you're not only physically sound when it comes to technique, but you're also like mentally locked in, knowing that, hey, like this is not only a big game, this is a big kick in that game.
Yeah, so I kind of split it up in the two halves like I was talking about a little bit.
Okay.
I'm fortunate to have built such a strong technical foundation from Dan since, I was 10 years old pretty much. And so there's a lot of technical things I don't have to think about just because we've spent so much time drilling it in. So I really have one or two things that we know I have to do to create success, which kind of on the back of my head. And so honestly, in my routine, like when I'm taking my steps back, that's when those thoughts are going through my head. And that's when I'm just reminding myself, you have to do this and you have to do this.
Yeah.
And those thoughts go away once the ball snap. It's something
Okay.
we've been working on is I need to let those go. I think about them pre-snap, and then I know I'm gonna do them and execute them, and then I let them go. And then that's where the mental side comes in, right? Is
Yeah.
right before the ball snapped. I need to be able to have that focus and catch that breath where I'm able to get my mind right, and I'm able to let those technical things go because something that I've had a problem with is keeping those thoughts throughout the entire rep, and that kind
Yeah.
of gets me in a little bit of trouble. And so being able to take that mental side and get that little competitive edge and focus and let it go and just let everything come together. And it's something I still struggle with, and it's what we're working on to keep growing. But in those moments, you have to think of it that way, and it has to be the same kick in the Army Navy game as it when we play a game that's maybe not on such a big scale for us. You can't
Exactly.
let that moment get to you, and I think it's always going to get to you in some sort of way, no matter like how hard you work on not letting it. Because
Yeah.
when there's 70,000 people in the stands, it's going to feel different than when there's 10,000. Um, and something that before the Army Navy game, our punter James Wagenseller reminded me. He's like, "You grew up wanting to be on this stage, and so don't let this stage scare you. Let it excite you." And I
Yeah.
think that's some of the best advice I've ever gotten
I
is
love it.
just the smile on my face and being able to go out there. I'm just excited. And when you have that excitement, you don't really think about the magnitude of the game you're in and what it truly means. And so it kind of helps to get rid of those extra nerves that can normally be involved with that.
Yeah, and that's part of obviously committing to armies. You get the opportunity to play in these big games. You get these opportunity to play in front of thousands and thousands of fans like every single year. Like that's just kind of part of it. And obviously that's what makes it unique, but that's what makes it fun, right? Like it's the only game that day. It's that only game that weekend. And I probably could go off for about 5, 10 minutes on a tangent about how that needs to stay that way. And I don't necessarily love the talk about like moving it. And we obviously don't have to go into that because you probably don't necessarily want to. But yeah, no, it's obviously a really fun game. Did you know those kicks were going in? Like, what percentage of kicks that you connect with your foot do you know, like, hey, like this is probably going to be good?
Um, I mean, I know it when the minute it hits my foot, I'm able
Okay.
to tell whether it goes in or not. But as the season went on, a lot of the mental work, I started knowing the kicks were going to go in just even before the rep happened, just before the game
Okay.
even happened, right? The preparation, how we changed my preparation throughout the season, and a lot of the mental work that I put in, from the start to the end, was just gaining confidence and gaining trust in my routine to where before the game, right? I know that every kick I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna be confident that's gonna go in.
Yeah.
And whether it goes in or not, right? I'm still gonna be confident that's gonna go in before the rep happens. And so that's kind of the change we were trying to make is to have that confidence and know I'm gonna go out in the field no matter the length of the kick, no matter where it is in the situation, is gonna go in versus early in the season. There wasn't that thought. It was once I hit the ball, let's see if this ball goes in, right? And so
Yeah.
kind of making that shift to be able to be confident and know that I have a team behind me, a coaching staff behind me, and a long snapper and holder that can give me the best chance to make that ball go in.
Yeah.
Just kind of remembering those things as well, and that helps build that confidence.
Absolutely. And obviously, the game wasn't exactly the result you guys wanted it to be. But, like, when you make a 48-yard field goal, like a career high like that, how good does that feel? Or does it feel like, hey, it's just an everyday kind of kick?
I mean, it definitely feels maybe a little more special, especially in a big moment in a game like that. But most kicks feel the same, just
Okay.
because you look at your sideline and you see the reaction from your teammates and your coaches, and that you were able to go out with a unit and put points on the board for your team.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, our job is just to be there to help put as many points as we can to help our team win the game. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal. And so
Yeah.
knowing that unit, that 11 guys that go out there for, our field goal unit, we work so hard and take so many reps, knowing that it wasn't me who did it, right? It took all 11 guys that were on the field and that we collectively got a result, and to see that we're helping the team, it's a really good feeling.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that. Obviously, like, it takes a whole team. It takes everyone to do their job in order for anyone to have success. Like the snap has to be good, the hold has to be good, the guys have to black. Like if that doesn't happen, if one thing's off, it's probably a blocked kick the other way. And that's just what happens in football. And that's just why special teams are, in my opinion, so interesting because it truly can make a difference in any game.
Yeah, most definitely. Special teams is some of the only plays where you can flip field position or, have guaranteed points. So definitely they have a big impact.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, it takes everybody out there. And I think that's something people forget is those guys, especially who block for us, they put so much time and that's not a glorious job at all.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I try and always pride myself on is making sure that, they get a thank you for what they do because I know it doesn't feel good and I know it's necessarily enjoyable going out there and getting ran over on this place sometimes, but
Yeah.
they're selfless and they do it because they care about the team and they care about us winning games. And so I'm just so thankful for those guys putting in what they do and everything they do for this team.
Absolutely. So if you weren't a kicker, is there a specific position you would love to play, like get an opportunity to play?
Um, I probably like to be a linebacker. I'm just not big enough for that.
Okay.
I feel like it'd be fun to be on the defensive side of the ball and make some plays and kind of be in control of the defense, like a
Okay.
middle linebacker would be fun. Yeah.
Do you enjoy hitting though? I feel like most kickers aren't really known for enjoying kind of getting in the action, like hitting someone, making that big hit.
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it. I hope I don't have to do it because it means something
Okay.
normally went pretty wrong.
Yeah.
But we do, tackling drills and spend time doing that, and
Okay.
always get excited when I see that we have that during a practice. Because you get to let some of your athleticism go, and we get to talk a little bit of junk to each other and hit each other. So it's fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. The one kicker I can always think of that is Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Is like special teams. Like you could always tell, like every single time he got an opportunity, like he was going to hit someone, and it's always fun to obviously watch that as well. But with a couple last questions, I do want to ask you. Obviously, I kind of already mentioned the fact like the college landscape is kind of changing, like transfer portal, NIL, stuff like that. Why is right now the best time to be an athlete at Army, especially with everything kind of going on?
Yeah. As you hinted at right now, the transfer portal and the landscape of college athletics has changed a lot. Um, when it comes to NIL and transfer portal and how people are just moving around every single year and they're just chasing the money. We don't have any of that here.
Yeah,
Our money is going to be when we're an officer in the United States Army and we're getting the value of serving our country. And so that for us is better than NIL and making money. And the fact that we get to build relationships that span more than just playing a season of college football together, right? It's special knowing that after the season, right, half your team's not leaving, right? Our,
yeah,
our team's staying and we're going to continue working together and building our relationships and just enjoying playing football together and getting better. And so I feel like that's definitely something that you don't get anywhere else right now because everybody's just leaving and you can't really build that true brotherhood when
yeah.
you have 80 new guys in the locker room each year. But we get to just sit there and build these relationships that are going to carry over into the Army and carry over into that service that, we all want to do and we're excited for. So.
Yeah, brotherhood development, right? Like that's something you guys talk about. That's something that you guys focus on. That's something that you guys believe in. Like if you're going to play at a service academy, you're going to be developed, and that's not necessarily happening all over the country. Like that's what makes kind of your experience, obviously, not only developing as a leader, developing as a person when it comes to the more academic side of things, when it comes to the training side of things, but also developing as an athlete as well. You can see multiple examples of guys that don't play maybe their freshman, sophomore year, maybe not even their junior year. They play their senior year, make a big impact, and then you kind of have the next class do that all over again. Like development is absolutely massive, and that's a big reason why I think you've been seeing a ton of success from Army and other service academies recently.
Yeah, I completely agree. And getting to see some of that up close and personal. When you come in here as a freshman, you see some guys who are sophomores and even juniors, and they're not playing and they're not getting on the field as much as they want. but just getting to spend the time and watch them work and how they conduct their business on and off the field, right? You see the development right in front of your eyes, and it's
Yeah.
really special to see guys. They're gritting it out, they're sticking it out, and they're just working. And then you get to see them make the field and play, and they make some big plays, and it's really exciting to see all the work and determination that I feel like not everybody has in this current day and age, especially with the landscape of college athletics, and to see these guys just stick it out
Yeah.
and work and find success and find time on the field.
Yeah, you have to be a selfless leader, right? Like you have to wait your time, and when your time comes, you know that you're ready.
100%. And that's something that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Most definitely, yeah. Sitting there and you want to play and realizing that it's not your time and that there's
Yeah.
somebody there that's ahead of you and that's better than you. Like we were talking about earlier, right? That's when you just have to sit back and watch and learn so then you can take those jumps and keep getting better and developing yourself.
Absolutely. And obviously, like, it's not easy, but then you still have the school side of things, right? Like, you're going through so much change. You're going through so much, I don't want to say hardship, but like, there's probably times where it might not seem worth it, but at the end of the day, it is truly worth it.
Yeah, most definitely. There are definitely those days that we talked about where you might question some things and the decisions you made just because the days are long and you're tired. But when you have that next day and you wake up the next day and you realize where you're at, what you're doing, and how you are living out your dream, even though sometimes it's not the most fun thing in the world. And there's those days that you really do question things. But no, we all know that our dreams are to play big college football and
Yeah,
build these relationships and go serve our country. And so whether that's a tough day at school, a tough day at football, tough military training, right? At the end of the day, that's part of our development and learning to be better leaders and better future officers. And so you just kind of got to put your head down and rally with the guys around you and just keep moving on.
exactly. And speaking of development, obviously, you're halfway done with your football career and time at Army. What are you hoping to achieve in the next 2 years? And what are some areas that you're hoping to kind of still improve on? Obviously, you talked about like the mental side of things a little bit, but more as like a football player and as a cadet before you get ready to obviously become an officer in the Army.
Yeah, as a football player, I want to just really stick to that mental side. I think that's where my biggest jumps can still be made. I really just want to keep honing in that process that we're working on, and
Yeah,
that's growing and getting better, but it can always get better. And so that's where I feel like I need the most improvement. It's just working on that and also translating what I'm learning down here in the core leadership wise and translating that into football
yeah,
and taking that step on the team to be a bigger leader and to be a louder voice in the locker room and have that impact on the team. I think that's something
absolutely.
that I want to really work on. And, I'm a kicker, be a leader. And then, you know, in the Army and what we do here as a leader. Honestly, this place is a 47-month journey,
Yeah.
and it's strategically built so that the time you commission after 47 months, you're ready. And so for me, I just want to keep following that path and keep giving it all I can so I can keep developing. And this place is perfect. They know what they're doing. And so really just
Exactly.
trusting in and buying into everything that they're doing so that, 2 years from now, we'll walk across that stage in a commissioned army.
Absolutely. And I know that you're doing a great job at that, and you've had a great career so far. And I hope you have a next couple great years as well as at Army as a kicker, obviously as a cadet as well. And I know you're going to do great things as an officer once you're out of there. But I really do appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your time to join. Obviously, good luck with your exam tomorrow. But I know you're going to do great things. And I kind of want to kind of put you a little bit on the spot real quick, though. This is kind of more of a different kind of question, but obviously with football, there's obviously college game day, right? As well, in the last couple of years, Pat McAfee has been doing his kicking competition a little bit. I believe it's a 35-yard field goal, maybe a little bit longer than that. In your humble opinion, what percent chance would you give me of making that field goal kick?
Um, well, you did mention earlier off camera, you played soccer,
Yeah.
and so in a lot of sports, and so I feel like the athleticism is there and the ability to kick a ball is there. So we'll go 70%.
I honestly did not expect that. I thought it was going to be like 30%, and I'm like 70%. I love the trust. I love that. Thank you so much. That's
Of course,
awesome.
yeah. As a former soccer player, I put a lot of value into how that builds the ability to kick a football. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, like I was saying, thank you so much again for joining. I really, truly hope this was worth your time. Hopefully, you had fun on. One thing I always say to anyone that ever joins is if you ever want to come back on, would love to have you back on. But really appreciate it. Best of luck in the next couple of years. Hopefully, I will be able to go to a home game in the future. That would be incredible. But hopefully, you guys still continue to get a ton of support, which I know you will.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'll definitely be back.
Absolutely. And that is a wrap to the latest episode. Thank you again to Dawson for joining, and tune in to the next episode.